The soldier woke up slowly, his eyes heavy like stone. The first thing he felt was the cold touch of metal under his back. The room was silent except for the soft hum of machines hidden in the walls. He blinked hard, trying to remember where he was, but his mind was full of broken images, battlefields, smoke, the sound of screaming engines. Then his breath caught, because he was not alone. Beside the bed stood a figure, a shadow against the pale light of the chamber. As his vision cleared, he saw her more clearly, a girl, but not human. Her skin was deep red, glowing faintly under the sterile lights, marked with white streaks like painted fire. Her hair, long and silver white, flowed down over her shoulders, catching the glow of the lamps like strands of glass. Her wrists were bound with shining cuffs, a faint blue energy humming softly as if mocking her freedom. She stood close, watching him with eyes that burned like dark amber. Both afraid and defiant, the soldier's chest tightened. He tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in his ribs forced him back down. His armor was still on, dented and scarred, though someone had laid him on a medical bed. He looked at the alien girl again, confusion in his voice. Who are you?" he whispered, his throat dry. She did not answer. Her lips pressed into a thin line, her gaze lowered, but her body trembled with a quiet strength. She looked more like a caged predator than a helpless captive. The soldier's heart pounded faster. He glanced around the chamber. The walls smooth, the doors sealed, the windows round and locked tight with thick metal shutters. It felt like a prison more than a hospital. Then a thought struck him, chilling his blood. Was she a guard? A spy? A killer sent to finish him while he was weak? But no, her chains told a different story. The cuffs were too tight, digging into her wrists, and the chain at her waist rattled whenever she moved. No, she was not free. She was a prisoner like him. But why was she here, in his room, watching him so closely? The soldier's voice grew firmer, though his body still ached. "What do they want from me?" he asked the silence. The alien girl lifted her head slowly, her eyes locking onto his. For a moment, the world around him seemed to freeze. Those eyes spoke of pain, of fire, of battles he could not even imagine. And yet, deep inside them, he saw something else, curiosity, maybe even a question. It was as if she was studying him as carefully as he studied her. He shifted again, forcing himself to sit despite the pain. His breath came sharp, but his soldier's will refused to stay. Down. The girl flinched when he moved, the chain pulling against her cuffs. The sound echoed in the quiet room, a cold reminder that she was trapped. "Why are you here?" he asked again, louder this time. Still she said nothing, but her lips parted slightly, and for an instant he thought she might speak. Instead, she turned her face away, as if ashamed or afraid. Suspense wrapped around the chamber like a tightening rope. The soldier could not look away. She was not only beautiful, she was dangerous, mysterious, and too calm for someone chained. It made his skin crawl, yet also pulled him closer in thought. What kind of reward was this? What kind of twisted gift had been placed in his path? He remembered the battle, the smoke, the fire raining from the sky. The last thing he recalled was charging forward, his weapon blazing, before something struck him down. Then darkness. Now he was here with her. Was she the reason he was alive? Or the reason he would soon die? The soldier clenched his fists. He was trained to face monsters, to fight armies. But never had he been prepared for this. A single girl with chains, standing beside his bed, watching in silence. The air between them was heavy, filled with unspoken words. His heart pounded in his ears, each beat echoing louder. He could not tell if it was fear, anger, or something else entirely. The alien girl finally moved. Just a step closer, her chains clinking softly. The sound sliced through the quiet like a blade. The soldier froze. His breath caught in his throat. Her eyes lifted again, and this time she held his gaze without flinching. There was power in her stare, something untamed, something ancient. It was not the look of a slave, but of someone waiting for the right moment to strike. And in that moment, the The soldier realized a truth that made his skin crawl. She was not here as a servant, nor as a prize. She was here as a test he did not yet understand, but one that could cost him his life. The hum of the machines grew louder, the shadows in the corners stretched longer, and the soldier lay back against the bed, his eyes locked on the alien girl as if she were the only thing keeping him awake. His breath slowed, his heart still raced, and in the silence of that chamber, one thought burned into his mind. This was only the beginning. The soldier could not sleep, even though his body ached and begged for rest. His eyes stayed fixed on the chained alien girl who stood in the corner of the chamber. The cold hum of the walls and the steady rhythm of hidden machines were the only sounds, broken only by the faint clink of her chains whenever she moved. He could not stop asking himself the same question. Why was she here? Why had they placed her with him? The girl stood with her back against the wall, her silver-white hair glowing faintly in the light. Her eyes avoided his gaze, yet he could feel the weight of her presence. She was too calm, too silent, like a storm waiting behind the clouds. The soldier had seen fear before, had seen slaves tremble under the boots of warlords, but she was different. Her silence was not weakness, it was power. That thought made him uneasy. Finally, he pushed himself up again, fighting against the pain in his chest. "You can speak, can't you?" he said, his voice low. The girl glanced at him, just for a moment, before looking away again, her lips pressed together, as if she was holding words back with sheer force. The soldier's frustration grew. He had been through too much to play games now. His eyes drifted to the cuffs on her wrists. The energy rings glowed faintly, their chains anchored into the wall behind her. They looked unbreakable. The kind of tech designed to hold even the strongest of prisoners. Whoever she was, she must have been considered dangerous. That thought sent another shiver down his spine. Why would anyone chain such a creature, then deliver her to a wounded soldier as a reward? The soldier leaned back, running a hand over his face. He remembered the last words he had heard before blacking out. A commander's cold voice, promising that loyal service would be remembered, that sacrifices would not be forgotten. And now, this an alien slave, beautiful, chained, standing like a ghost beside his bed. Was this truly their idea of a reward? Or was it a curse in disguise? The girl finally moved, her steps slow, the chain at her waist rattling softly. She stopped just a few feet from him, her glowing eyes locking onto his face. For the first time, he saw something flicker in them. Not anger, not fear, but curiosity. It was brief, gone in an instant, but it was enough. "You're not going to kill me," the soldier whispered, more to himself than to her. "If you wanted to, you would have done it already." The girl tilted her head, her hair falling across her cheek. She looked at him like one might look at a puzzle. Something strange and unexpected, he felt exposed under that gaze. As if she could see through his armor, through his pain, and into the truth of who he was. For a heartbeat, he almost forgot she was chained. For a heartbeat, he almost forgot she was alien. Then the sound of heavy boots echoed outside the chamber door. The soldier tensed, his instincts snapping awake. The girl flinched, her chains clattering as she stepped back quickly. Her eyes hardened again, her expression locking into silence. The door did not open, the boots passed by, and the hallway grew quiet again. But the soldier had seen the look in her eyes. Fear not of him, but of whoever commanded the locks and doors. Slowly, he realized something important. She was not here by choice. She had been forced here, placed at his side like a weapon wrapped in beauty, and whatever she was, she feared the ones who controlled the chains more than she feared him. The soldier's mind raced. If she was a prisoner, then perhaps they expected him to treat her as such. But if he did, what would that make him? A hero, or just another jailer in a war without mercy? The thought made his stomach twist. He leaned forward, ignoring the sharp ache in his ribs. "Listen," he whispered. "I don't know why you're here, and I don't know what they expect of me." Her eyes flicked to his, cautious, searching. "But I'm not your enemy," he said softly. The words hung in the air like fragile glass. For a long moment, she did not move. Then, almost too small to notice, she nodded once. The tiniest gesture, but enough to send a spark of hope through his chest. The chains rattled as she shifted her hands. She raised her wrists slightly, showing him the glowing cuffs. Her expression said everything words could not. These were not ornaments, these were shackles. The soldier clenched his fists, fury boiling inside him. Who would bind someone like this, strip away their freedom, and then pretend it was a gift? He wanted to rip the chains off her wrists, but he knew he couldn't, not yet. The silence stretched on, heavy and sharp. The soldier leaned back, his breath heavy. He now understood. At least a little. The girl was more than a prize, more than a servant. She was a secret, a mystery locked in chains. And whoever had placed her here wanted him to be part of that secret. The hum of the machines filled the chamber again. The soldier's eyelids grew heavy, exhaustion pulling at him. But even as he drifted closer to sleep, he kept his eyes on her. She stood tall despite the chains, her silver hair shining like moonlight, her red skin glowing faintly in the cold light. And he thought, before darkness claimed him, "She is not my reward. She is my warning." The soldier woke again to the low hum of the machines. His body still ached, but the pain had dulled into a constant throb. The first thing he saw was her, the alien girl, still bound in chains, still standing near the wall like a shadow that refused to leave. For a long moment, neither of them moved, the silence stretching thin like glass ready to break. He sat up slowly, gritting his teeth as the bruises on his ribs flared with pain. Her eyes followed him, watchful, sharp and unblinking. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry, his voice rough. "You don't talk much," he muttered, more to himself than to her. But to his surprise, she tilted her head, as if she had understood the words. His heart skipped. Was she listening all this time, pretending not to understand? He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Can you understand me?" he asked carefully. Her amber eyes flickered, and after a pause, she gave the slightest nod. The soldier froze, the air in his chest catching. It was a small gesture, but it meant more than any chain, more than any silence. It meant there was a chance to reach her. Encouraged, he pointed at himself, tapping his chest. "Human," he said slowly. "I am human." Then he pointed at her, waiting, hoping. At first, she only stared at him, her lips pressed together. But then, quietly she spoke, her voice low and rough, a single word in her own tongue, alien, sharp, but full of meaning. It sounded like fire and wind woven together. The soldier repeated it clumsily, and she blinked in surprise. For the first time, he saw a hint of softness in her eyes. The chains rattled as she shifted slightly closer. Cautious but curious, her gaze locked on his lips as he tried to repeat her name again, this time more carefully. She gave a small sound, almost like a laugh, but more like disbelief. The soldier felt heat rise in his chest, not from shame, but from something else, something new. It was the first moment that felt alive between them, not prisoner and captor, not reward and soldier, but two beings trying to understand each other. He touched the edge of his armor, tapping it lightly. Then he pointed at her cuffs, glowing faintly with their strange energy. Her eyes darkened, her lips tightening. Slowly, she raised her chained wrists, letting him see the deep marks the cuffs had left on her skin. The sight made his stomach twist with anger. "They hurt you," he whispered. She looked away, but the silence was answer enough. The soldier's hands clenched. He wanted to break the chains, smash them, free her right there. But he knew it wasn't possible, not with the strength he had left, not with the technology he didn't understand. Instead, he met her eyes again, steady and calm. "I'll find a way," he said firmly. She tilted her head again, as if weighing the truth of his words, and then, very slowly, she gave another small nod. The connection was fragile, but it was real. The soldier felt it like a thread between them, thin but strong enough to hold. in that silent chamber. Trust had begun to take root. Time passed slowly. He told her simple words, repeating them, pointing. Teaching. Water, he said, lifting a cup. Light, he said. Pointing at the lamp, she listened, her eyes sharp, memorizing each sound. Sometimes she tried to repeat them, her accent rough but beautiful in its own way. And each time she tried, he felt a strange warmth stir in his chest. It was not just communication, it was survival. It was hope, but the fragile peace was broken by the echo of footsteps outside. Heavy boots, sharp voices in the hall. The girl stiffened, her chains clinking as she pulled back, her face hardening again. The soldier frowned, his own instincts sharp. The door remained closed, but the threat lingered like smoke. Whoever controlled this place, they were close, and they would not be kind if they discovered this fragile bond. Forming, the soldier leaned closer, whispering quickly, "You're not safe here." She looked at him, her amber eyes shining, and for the first time, she whispered a single word in his language, broken and heavy. "No," she said. The sound of that word shook him more than a battle ever could, because in her voice, he heard not only fear, but trust. She trusted him enough to speak it. The soldier's heart pounded as he realized the truth. This was no reward, no prize for his service. This was a test, a trap, maybe even a death sentence. But in the middle of it all, he had found something unexpected, a fragile connection with someone who should have been his enemy. And he knew, deep inside, that he would not let that connection break. No matter the cost. The chamber grew quiet again, but the silence no longer felt empty. It felt alive, filled with unspoken words, with hidden promises. The soldier lay back, slowly, his body aching, but his mind sharper than ever. The girl's eyes lingered on him for a long time before she finally turned away. And in the dim light, he thought, the chains may hold her body, but not her spirit, and one day soon, they will not hold her at all.